Hey there, YouTube. How you doing today? I'm just messing around with my brand new Mr. Brog. Let's see what it's labeled as. It's the number 13 Deserter or Deserteur. I don't know because I don't speak German or whatever the fuck that is. Really cool pipe though. Nice finish. Nice tobacco cage on there. Pretty nice stuff. Uh, Smokes real well. All that jazz. But anyways, I thought today um, we would start the series on the rules and mechanics of the tabletop role playing system that I have here that allows for what I have experienced as a great deal of free role playing capability with a nice sound structure around it, not in any way inhibiting it. So, here I am, all cozied up with my nice faux fur blanket and my hat, my pipe, my journal type device thing here, my composition books that I use to write in. I don't use any special or spiffy journals to work with until I got something solid to put in it. But let's get to work. So, a couple of things that you need to know. And please pardon the way I sound. I'm a little clogged up today. Some residual gunk going on in there, and I'm not brave enough to spray salt water into my nose. What do you need to know as far as how to utilize the system to your advantage? Well, first of all, it's a 1 to 100 system. What does that mean? It means that the ultimate level cap on any attribute, sub-attribute, natural ability, skill, special ability, powers, or spells, or fill in the blank is 100. You can't go any higher than that, and it gets pretty expensive when you get there. I don't advertise soda. But anyways, so what does that mean? 1 to 100. Well, what it means is 1 to 100 D8s. This is a D8 only system. And what that number represents is 1 to 100 D8s. There you have it. With, of course, the potentiality of 1 to, I can find it, 800 as far as adding it all together. But anyways, so let's talk about the die. Okay, 1 on a D8 in this system represents failure and will eliminate one other success. 8 in this system represents 3 successes. Now, how does that work? If you have a 1 and an 8, well, that's 2 successes. If you have 2 1s and an 8, that's 1 success. You just have to make note of it, is all. Now, you're not going to just need 1 D8. You're going to need a bunch of D8s. You don't necessarily need 100 D8s because getting to 100 is a pain in the ass.
So how does that work? Well, put simply, let's say you have a firearms skill of 5, and you want to level that up to 10. What the base level 1 through 10 is referred to as is cost. Once you surpass 10 and you're moving up into 11 to 20, it's cost times 2. From 21 to 30, cost times 3, and so on. Every 10 intervals, the cost is upgraded by an extra times variable. Let me see if I can just throw that in. It didn't matter that much. If you can see that at all, that's the scale. And I write like shit, so don't give me crap. And I spell like shit, which is funny because I'm a writer. But anyways, the average character, when starting off in this system, gets a number of points to assign to the character sheet. And we'll get to the character sheet down the road. And in the open construction of your character, let's say you get 100 points to build a character, and it's very hard to build a character on just 100 points. You have to be very, very frugal. You can't be uber on just 100 points building a character. Essentially speaking, you have to flesh out attributes. You have to flesh out sub-attributes, and sometimes sub-attributes is automatic, half of the base main attribute. Without the ability to go below 0. Go below 1 point on sub-attributes. So sub-attributes, on general speaking, is half of the main attribute. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue with this 1 to 100 thing. Let's talk about cost. So you have a firearms of a 5, and you want to move to 10. Well, you can't just pay 10 and call it a day. It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. Cost means that you have to, let's say we're going from no firearm skill to level 5 and then to 10. You have to pay 1, you have to pay 2, you have to pay 3, you have to pay 4, you have to pay 5 to get a skill of 5. Okay, you have to pay every interval, and there's every interval between. So you want to move from firearms points 5, that's 5d8, to firearms 10. That means that you have to pay 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. And if my math is correct, which it probably isn't, because I'm not feeling very well, I'm a little groggy today, and I don't really know why. That means that if my math is correct, you have to pay 40 to move from firearms 5 to firearms 10. Starting to see now, aren't you? So, let's say you're moving from firearms 10 to firearms 20. Well, from 11 to 20 is cost times 2. So what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means that 11 doesn't cost you 11, it costs you 22. 22? 22. And 20 doesn't cost you 20, it costs you 40. And every variable between is that variable times 2. Very simple premise. Well, let's say you're moving from 20 to 30. Well, that's 21 times 3. So let's think about this here, because My math's way off, and I'll probably use calculator and annotate it later, though my phone is dead, and that's where my calculator is, so figure it out. And 30 is 30 times 3, and, for me, that's 90. That's 90. You have to pay 90 to get 30. That sucks. It gets worse as you go up. It becomes more and more impossible to achieve that task until eventually you hit 91 to 100, which is times 10. And that's like, ouchie poo poo. It's made to be difficult to reach that high of a level. But anyways, 1 to 100 is the scale. All of your main attributes can achieve 100. All of your sub-attributes can achieve 100. Some are a little bit more difficult than others because you actually have to do things to actually expound upon them. But we'll get there. I'm going to have to work out a generic character sheet that you can utilize. But there is also a simplified version of this. It is called the 5-attribute game. The primary game is a 3-attribute game that has sub-attributes, natural abilities, skills, special abilities, powers, spells, so on. Essentially speaking, the simple game is 5 attributes, which consists of, we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's not start talking about that right now. Let's not get confused, okay? I don't want to dish out that detail yet. But the simple game is a lot of fun and is generally stupid because it is so much fun. Because you get to be ridiculous. You get to be the, to quote a friend of mine who built a character in the simplified system, the waitress with the apron of doom. Which was completely and totally awesome. And unfortunately, we did not get to fulfill that play because I and my friends, we are very, very busy people, and we don't generally get to sit down and play. I'm a parent. My friends all work and are parents. We don't get the general opportunity to just sit down and play. We don't. And it's sad because we used to. We used to be able to sit down and play all the goddamn time. But anyways, so 1 to 100 D8s. So let's say, for instance, you had, let's talk more about the die. We'll get to the for instance here in a second. This die shows up on the camera way better. So 1 is a botch. It's a failure. It eliminates other successes along with it. For instance, if I can line this up correctly with the other die, let's say 5 was the target number, and you roll a 5 and a 1, if I can line this up correctly. That means no success. So anyways, 1 means critical failure, and not only is it a critical failure, but it eliminates 1 correspondent success. 8 represents 3 successes. So what does the rest of the die mean as far as gameplay is concerned? Well, 2 and 3 is low challenge or low difficulty target numbers. 4 and 5 are mid-level. 6 and 7 are high-level difficulties. You can never state 8 or 1 as a target number. If 1 is a target number, you don't need a dice roll. If 8 is a target number, you don't need a dice roll. It's an automatic failure. So, what does this mean? Riding a bike. You're an adult. You practice riding a bike the majority of your life. You don't need a dice roll to ride a bike. Most people know how to swim. You don't need a dice roll to swim. unless, of course, previously stated at the beginning of the game, whenever you're developing your character, that your character, does not know how to swim. Okay, noted. That means you're going to have to dice roll that. However, does that mean that you don't have to dice roll whenever you're wearing armor? Of course it means you have to dice roll whenever you're wearing armor. It's encumbered swimming. It's encumbered running. It's encumbered climbing. Riding on the back of a horse, as far as I am concerned, that is something that you learn. Unless previously stated that during the course of the background of your character, yeah, I've been riding horses and all sorts of other rideable mounts for my entire. That's what my family does. We teach other people how to ride horses and other mountable type creatures. Unless that is previously stated, you don't know how to. Sorry, you're going to have to learn, which means there's going to be a measure of difficulty. Depending on the kind of mount, how difficult is it going to be? Well, it depends. Are you a nutcase who decides that you want to mount and ride a tiger? That's extreme difficulty. That's a target number of a 7. Requisite 5 successes at minimum. And even then, the tiger gets to roll as to whether or not it eats you. So, stuff like that, which presents very, very interesting roleplay. I'm going to mount the tiger and ride it. Thank you for playing. So let's say you come across a giraffe and you make the decision that you want to mount and ride a giraffe. Well, if you manage to mount the giraffe, you might actually have a chance, because a giraffe does not exactly have the easy ability to wring his neck around and knock you the fuck off him. However, a giraffe, like all four-legged animals, are capable of bucking. And, well, more legs, stronger buck, basically, fundamentally, without getting into the, over-encumbered physics argument. So, how does this work? I try to mount and ride a horse that has been previously trained and been broken to suit the purpose of riding. Well, then it falls to what? Your behavior. If you're a complete and total moron and you try to climb onto the back of a horse and ride it, guess what? It's going to be a major competition between your almost non-existent riding skills and the horse's personal decisions. So let's say, for instance, the horse has a 5-point mind, which would be, or psyche, as it is typically referenced, and versus your skill. Who do you think's going to lose? Huh? It presents some very, very interesting options. However, encumbered swimming, if you already know how to swim, that means instead of getting a buck kiss in the skill or a 1 in the skill, because you already know how to swim and you know that swimming with heavy armor is going to be a bitch, and you recognize that and you're humble about it and you take your time about it, you might get a bonus of 2 extra dice. So 1 plus 2 extra dice, that's 3 dice. That's a good chance of success. A lot of how this system works is how you choose to roleplay it. If you choose for your character to be a complete moron, we can run it that way. But there is a thing in this system, and it's not an attribute, it's a sub-attribute, I believe. I'm not too sure. I'd have to dig through a drawer or two to be able to find something, and even then I'd have to be able to remove a couple of pieces of that character sheet to be able to show you, because the character sheets that I have are specifically driven towards the ND game around which the ND system was built. And the ND game, I don't want any of you to know about, because one day I'm going to build a business off of it, or I'm just going to keep it for me and my buddies. The system, however, I think should be everybody's, and we've already covered this. But anyways, where was I? Let's say, for instance, you are a cavalier, okay, a knight. Because a cavalier is educated from somewhat a young age, at least for our time period, um, or a knight, you know, encumbered swimming might be a verbatim, as opposed to, I'm gonna try out encumbered swimming for the very first time. Hope I don't drown or lose my armor. Instead of getting a 2 dice bonus, because first of all, you're a cavalier or a knight, and you are humble about this, and you recognize that you're going to have to incorporate some extra things there to make it possible. Generally speaking, to counterbalance encumbered swimming and make it just swimming, you might actually have to incorporate a flotation device. Well, what kind of flotation devices would you have in the medieval age? I don't know. I haven't done that research. However, the Greeks used an animal skin or an animal bladder, filled it up with air, and that did the job. But would you, as a knight, know that? How well educated are you? Do you know how to read and write? Do you know how to sign your own name? Or do you just do an X? Do you come at it logically? Do you come at it emotionally? I have to save that young maiden across the way. I must either walk across the bottom and do my best to hold my breath, or do my best to swim across. Encumbered swimming. Let's see if we can do this. Do I already know how to swim? Kinda. And you go from there. Also, in this system, there is a 1 to 100 favor system. So, for instance, this is going to be our favor die. This is going to be our anti-favor die. In this system, there is a thing called favor. The more of a douchebag you are, the more anti-favor you're going to gather, which means the more dice on this side that you're going to gather. And there isn't a times cost blockage here. There isn't a cost blockage here. There is just, oh, you want to be more of a douchebag? Well, let's just add a die there now, shall we? However, the more decent role-playing that you present, the more better. I'm advertising chips in the background. No. um. Anyways, if you're a jackass in the game as a character, or if you're just being a jackass to other players as a person, if you choose to be a douchebag, you will gain more anti-favor. More anti-favor means, essentially speaking, whenever you are rolling dice against a situation or a target number pertinent to the roll of favor, the more the more failures are stacked on to your dice roll, whether you're aware of it or not. Dude, I got 10 critical successes, 10 8s. Why am I failing? Well, it's the way the system is built. Maybe you should try to be nicer. Because the way the system is built, the worse your character is, or the worse you are as a person to the other players, the less favor you gather, and the more anti-favor you gather. The more anti-favor you gather, the worse your dice rolls become. And this is just how the system is built. Also, the more evil your character is, because this is a heroes-driven system, unless, of course, you go with the simplistic system, in which case you can say, fuck it, I'm going to be who I'm going to be. Or, if you're playing a deliberately evil character for a deliberately evil campaign, the more favor you'll gather, as opposed to anti-favor, because you're deliberately being what you're supposed to be being in that particular thing. You could switch the whole fucking thing around, man. And that's the way the game is designed. It's designed for you to roleplay what you want to roleplay. However, favor works in the process of the dominant behavior of the group. So if the dominant behavior of the group is we're all good guys and you decide to be a bad guy, well, you have to be bad in a very specific way in order for you to pull that off and gain favor, which means in a kind of sort of way, you got to be more of a douchebag. And how does that work? Well, this is how it works. So to everybody's faces, you are the best good guy in the whole earth. I will not dishonor myself by killing a weakling. No, that is not proper. I will not do such a thing. It is not honorable. But you can be honorable and be evil. That's things that most people don't understand. You can be, for you D&D fans, you can be absolutely chaotic evil and be honorable. It depends on what the code of honor is. So let's say, for you D&D fans, I'm not one of them, but for you guys, you're playing a chaotic evil character who is absolutely honorable. So what does that mean? That means his code of ethics and honor has to be chaotic, which means he can be, to other people's faces, absolutely honorable. Oh yeah, I would not denigrate myself by lowering myself to your level. No, I will not do that. That is not honorable. No. Is anybody looking? No? Okay. Dead. Oh my God, who killed this poor man? Oh, it's horrible. Oh, it's terrible, terrible. More favor gained. You know, it depends. It's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. If you're deliberately going out of your way to drag the rest of the team down, you lose favor. However, if you're an absolutely evil character, but to the rest of the group you seem fine and you go along and you play along and then you kind of set a booby trap or two while, you're taking up the rear, so whenever they come back and you continue to take up the rear, some of your buddies get dead so that you can continue your evil purposes, you gain favor. However, if you are busted, if you are caught in the act and fail to kill the good guy, you will lose favor. If you are busted by the entire group and the entire group sets out to destroy you, you lose massive amounts of failure, massive amounts of what I've been saying before, of favor. You lose massive amounts of failure, and it automatically, let's say this is your situation as far as favor is concerned. I mean, I got 5 dice over here, and I've got 1 die over here. This bonuses your successes. This weakens your successes. So let's say the entire group walked across you, butchering a person you promised to protect. Instead of not getting busted, I've lost him. I don't know what happened. I can't find him. I need your help to find him. I don't know what happened. I failed. 1 die carryover. Okay? So instead, they walk in on you, butchering him by hand. Ha ha! Well, more like that. It completely transfixes. It switches apart. Now you have 5 dice in your anti-favor and 1 die in your favor. That's not good odds. That means, let's say for instance, they bust you in the act and they decide to chase you and hunt you down. Well, now you have 5 dice in anti-favor. Unless you take your time and are patient and gut each one of them as they come along and manage to get away with it, you will maintain that level of anti-favor. And the more often you get busted in the act of being evil, the more anti-favor you gather. So let's reverse this. Let's say you're a good guy in a role-playing situation in which the whole fucking world is evil and you're the only decent, good, honorable person there. See, once again, it doesn't matter what side of the road you're walking on, you can be honorable. But let's say you're in a completely evil, unhonorable world, and you're the only good, honorable person left. Well, you ain't gonna have no favor. All the favor is gonna be anti-favor. And all of the good favor, once again, it's gonna be like this. Okay? You have to play to the world in a lot of different ways. Like, for instance, I'm currently working behind the scenes on a game world that is pertinent to a world of government-funded monster hunters, as overdone as that is. But the whole favor is on the side of monsters, as opposed to on the side of the heroes. So what does that mean? Your favor, your anti-favor. And it's going to stay that way a lot of the time. Okay, so we covered 1 to 100. We covered favor. We're going to get to the rest of that stuff that I hinted to earlier. What else should we cover? Covered successes, failures, dice stuff. In favor, 1 to 100. What else? I mean, really, what else? Ooh, carryover. This entire system is based around the idea of carryover. So let's say you're a really powerful wizard with great magic and very powerful effects, and you are assailed by 5 brigands, and those 5 brigands are 5 brigands on a budget. I mean, let's say they had like, I don't know, for you D&D fans, they had 50 copper to outfit themselves with. That's not good at all. I mean, you might get 1 or 2 swords. You might get a little bit of armor. Maybe. It's bad, Alright, so we're going to be brigands now, but we don't have 50 copper to outfit ourselves. That's not good at all. Well, you know what could happen? We could go out there, we could rob a few fellows, and then we could really outfit ourselves. Right. So anyways, these 5 brigands, they catch this guy on the road, and he's a really powerful wizard, and they say, "Ha! Give us all your money or we will gut you, you mighty foe." He looks scary. And the wizard goes, "Well, isn't that convenient?" Perzot! Throws a bolt of lightning. Because this is a carryover system, I mean, let's say it's a pretty powerful, let's call it a 30 point, which means 30d8 bolt of lightning. And let's say that the average hit point of these brigands is about 10 hit points with maybe 5 armor each. Let's see. The minimum, 1 times 30 points of damage. 30 times 8. I don't know. I don't have a calculator sitting in front of me right now. So the rest of you can figure it out and leave it in the comments for me, because I don't really want to bust out a calculator right now, because my phone is dead, and if I do so on the computer, the whole video thing goes pew, boop, boop. So anyways, it's pretty out there as far as I'm aware. That's a lot of points. It's a lot of damage. So, you know what? For the sake of argument, let's say he manages to get extra critical successes and manages to have lots of favor, which means he gets some bonuses, and he fires off 80 points of damage. Well, the first guy has 15 points on him to blow through. 10 hit points, 5 armor. So, and let's say he also manages to have scrounged around and gotten a few cruddy swords. Well, and let's call them 3-point swords. In this system, the way this operates is that 3-point sword can actually count as armor, because once again, this is a carryover system. So grand total, he's got 18 points of armor on him, and the wizard just threw an 80-point bolt of lightning. Okay, that means, let's see here, 18 points goes right through him. Goes through his sword, goes through his armor, goes through him and the person behind him, over and over and over again, until all the point value of the bolt of lightning is run through all of these dudes. So each dude has about 18 points on them. There's 5 dudes. There's 80 points. The last dude, let's see here, 18... do the rest of the math, because I know there's going to be a handful of points left over. 4 dudes are going to be gone through, and there's going to be something like, I don't know, 8 points left over, something like that. And the last guy gets 8 points. 8 points of damage. For instance, I don't know what the actual thing is, because I'm not doing math today, because my head hurts. But anyways, so 8 points. That's the 3 points of his sword, and that's the 5 points of his armor. So he doesn't have any weapons or armor left over, because the wizard toasted them. They are ash on the ground. What do you think that bandit's gonna do? What do you think that brigand's gonna do? What would I do? What would you do in that situation? Ha ha! Give us your money or we'll get you here. Oh God, he's looking very scary right now. But I'm out. Yeah. So let's say lightsaber versus steel sword. Not a weird BioWare can actually hold up to a lightsaber sword. No, like a medieval cruddy ass fucking sword. So let's say it's a 10-point sword, and you're wearing several layers of armor, for lack of better expression. Let's call the lightsaber a 300-point lightsaber, just for the sake of argument, just to get through it right now. So you have a sword, you have a board, you have plate mail. Underneath that, let's just say for the sake of argument, you're a big dude, you can handle it. You have the body points or corpus points to be able to heft a lot of armor. So let's say you have a nice broadsword, something heavy duty, about 10 points, about a 20-point shield. Let's say you got about a 30-point plate mail, and underneath that you got about a 10-point chain mail, and underneath that you got about a 5-point cloth mail or cloth armor, and underneath that you got your underoos, which are worth about dick, and then you have your core body armor. Your core body armor is the natural amount of resistance your body presents, whether that is 1 point, whether that is 100 points. Who knows? It depends on you, your character, and how far along you are. The greater your corpus, the more core body armor you have. It's just sort of a natural resistance to damage. Well, this guy has 10 points of hit points, let's say, for lack of better expression. That means he has exactly 1 point of core body armor. Well, that lightsaber is worth 300 points. We don't even have to roll the goddamn dice. It's going to cut through everything that he has. But let's say, for instance, he draws the shield close to his person, covering himself from here to here, and he puts his sword in front of that to continue to protect him. Well, because this is a carryover system, it's not going to go through his hand or his other arm. It's going to go through the sword. Then it's going to go through the shield. Then it's going to go through the plate mail. Then it's going to go through the chain mail. Then it's going to go through the cloth armor. the underwear, his actual natural body armor, and then his hit points. Think that through. Anyways, detailed all of that jazz. Oh yeah, whenever you hit a weapon, for double its value in damage, the weapon is destroyed. Same with armor. If you damage double the value of the armor is toast. Okay? That, essentially speaking, the way armor works in the system is that when you hit armor and you surpass that armor value, let's say you hit for 50 on a 30-point armor. You didn't double, so the armor isn't toast, nor is the armor damaged. But you did do 20 points of damage to the person behind the armor. 30-point armor, 50-point damage. The second you hit, like, let's say, 60 versus a... Well, no, I'm detailing that wrong. I am. Okay, so you have 30-point armor, and you go over that armor by 20 points. What you do is you take the value of that 20 points, divide it down, you round it down, not that you have to. It's 10 points, so now there is 10 points damage on that 30-point armor, which drops it to a 20-point armor, for lack of better expression. No matter how much you go over, the weapon, the armor, weapons are a little bit different. Weapons you do have to get double, and then whatever after double the damage value of a weapon, you start nicking off points of the value of that weapon until it eventually breaks. With armor is a little bit broader and a little bit thinner, unless we're talking about shields, which might have a thin steel front but a hardwood back, or depending on how much money you got to spend on that, might have a wood, a steel overlay, a wood buffer, a steel interior lay, and then another wood buffer, which means we have to count those, and we have to downgrade the damage pertinent to that subject. But you can't really go down very deep, and it's not very thick, so it might not be worth a lot, but it slows down the damage value. Once you've destroyed a layer, you have to stop, and then you have to hit it again to continue to downgrade the value of the armor, or the shield, for lack of better expression. However, with body armor, you take the amount that surpasses, you divide it by 2, you round down, and that's the amount of damage that actually happens to the armor. Okay, for lack of better expression. And no, that doesn't work very well. It's not a very accurate system, but it works. However, for a weapon, you have to do twice the damage value of the weapon, and then whatever surpasses that is what you damage the weapon with. So let's say you've got a 10-point sword, you do, say, 30 points of damage to that, so you got twice the value in points of the weapon, plus 10, divide by 2, round down, that's the damage you do to the weapon. Okay, it's a little complicated, but in the end, what it makes for is as close to realistic damage values as we can get. So anyways, we're going to talk more about this later once I've got my thoughts a little bit more organized. I'm going to see if I can print out a generic character sheet so that we can go over that, so that I can explain how that works, because that's a big thing. And then I'm going to go over the simplified version of the game, which is still a 1-to-100 system. It's just the 1-to-100 system is the same difficulty to attain, but it is very, very simplified, as opposed to skills or natural abilities or special abilities or powers. We have, well, powers are there, but it's a little bit different. What we end up having, we'll talk about that next time. We'll talk about that next time. Anyways, God bless you. and all that stuff. I love you guys. I'll talk to you next time. I hope I didn't fry your brain with me going all over the place, talking about all these different things. But these are important things to understand. This is the foundation of what we're going to be talking about later. And I'm sorry I took almost an hour to talk about it. But anyways, love you guys. Talk to you later. Peace.